Hi, this is Claire from Berry Do Papery, and today I'm participating in the HeroArts 2016 catalog blog hop. HeroArts recently released a huge catalog full of great new stamps, and today I'm going to show you how I made 2 cards using the color layering 4U stamp set and the Confetti Bold Prints stamp, as well as a stamp set from the Valentine's release. And particularly, I want to show you a technique for getting better results when you stamp on vellum. Alright, so I have my flowers and my leaves already put on their blocks. I'm going to be using the sentiment from the Love by Leah stamp set. This is from the Valentine release, and I'm going to stamp it onto a piece of vellum, which I am just taping down to a piece of scrap white paper just so it's easier for me to tell where I'm stamping and what exactly I'm stamping, so how it looks. When I stamp the sentiment, you can tell that I've cut it apart. That's because the sentiment comes with these little hearts that are kind of tied on to the end of the smile part of the sentiment. I didn't want that, so I cut it apart. It's okay. These are high quality stamps, so when I put them back on their acetate, they will fit together perfectly, like they've never been separated. Just real quick, this HeroArts dye ink that I use to stamp, I never have any problem stamping with this on vellum. At least when I'm using sentiments or whatever, it just stamps really well. But now on to the kind of tricky part. So the thing with vellum is it has a slick surface, so that's why it's tricky to stamp on it, because when you're trying to stamp on it, especially when you use the bold images that have lots of flat area, they tend to smear. It's just hard to keep a nice even grip on the vellum. So what I do is I've inked up my bold image, this flower, with fresh peach ink, and I actually wave the stamp block around like 15-20 times in the air, and that actually helps the ink dry onto the stamp so it's not as juicy. So when you do go to stamp it, it doesn't have as much of a chance of smearing, since the ink has kind of had a little bit of time to dry on there. So if you had older ink pads, it might actually, you could try that with stamping on vellum because they wouldn't be as juicy, so that could work. But if you're using, good ink pads that are nice and fresh, then I find that kind of waving them back and forth, my stamp in the air, just gives it a little bit of time to dry, and it makes it way easier to stamp, as well as giving it a crisper impression. So that's my top secret way of stamping on vellum. Just wave it in the air like a crazy woman. Also, I wanted to point out that I'm using shadow inks, and just like with regular cardstock, shadow inks have this unique property of kind of seeming blotchy when you first stamp them, but after a couple of minutes really evening out. So the same applies for this vellum. They really even out. So some of the images might look kind of splotchy at first, but once they dry, they're very nice and even. I really like how it works with this technique. So the stamp set does come with at least 2 layers for every image. So you could actually stamp the next layer on this, but I decided not to. I just liked the first layer. So I went ahead and I heat dried that, because if you actually waited, if you let it air dry, it would take forever. And then I just stamped some more flowers on a piece of scrap vellum, and then I heat dried that. So before you go to stamp the second layer, if you do want to do that, you need to heat dry, otherwise it'll just make the ink super smeary. For the second layer, I didn't have a ink that was close enough to the fresh peach in tone that I wanted to do the second layer with, so I actually took this new bold ink from HeroArts. It's a hybrid between pigment and dye ink, and this one's strawberry, maybe strawberry field. No, I think it's just strawberry. And I actually stamped it off once onto a piece of scrap paper, and then I'm stamping it the second time onto the vellum, and the second time you stamp it, the impression is a little bit lighter, and it works perfectly with this fresh peach ink. I don't know why I'm having trouble saying that. But anyway, so even if you didn't actually like, if it's not vibrant enough for you the second time, like you'll see with the large flower, I actually stamped the second layer twice because I thought it was a little bit too subtle the first time. So the leaves also have that second layer, but I decided not to do it for the second card. The largest flower actually has 3 layers, so you can go with 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers. That's what I really love about that stamp set. So I just wanted to point out real quick that this whole generation stamping technique, you can also use this on vellum. So look, I got 6 different shades of that red ink on one piece of vellum. It's really cool. So I'm going to have to, I heat dry those again so they wouldn't smear, and then I die cut them with the coordinating frame cuts. And now I'm just taking a piece of white cardstock, I'm die cutting that, and then I'm going to stamp the sentiment that I did for that large piece of vellum. Once I have that stamped, I'm going to arrange my flowers and then take a picture with my phone just as a reference in case I accidentally bump them when I'm adhering them down, so I kind of know what the arrangement looks like. This is actually a tip that I learned from Jennifer McGuire, I think. So just to keep that in mind. Now that I have the flowers arranged, I got my picture taken. I'm not actually going to adhere them down right now. I wanted to do the background first. I'm taking a piece of cardstock from the pool layering pack. This is the lightest shade, and I'm going to stamp it using the new Confetti Bold Prints stamp. This is also from the 2016 catalog release. I'm inking it up with mint julep ink because I want a tone-on-tone look, so it's pretty close in shade. And then I am just stamping it onto my cardstock. So you'll see that I didn't actually fold my card base. I actually masked off that. I find that I get a crisper impression if I stamp my background before I fold it. So, and then another thing to really quickly point out, when I am actually folding the card after I've inked it, since the ink is still wet, I actually put the ink side down against the board so that when I'm running my scoring tool across it, I don't accidentally smear the ink. It's pretty light, but just in case. So I was rearranging these flowers, starting to adhere them, and then I realized the large flower was just being kind of obnoxious for me. It was just getting in the way of the sentiment. So I went ahead and I stamped and I die cut another one of the small flowers, and I just felt that that helped things balance out a lot better. So I adhered everything down, and now I'm taking a piece of foam. It has adhesive on one side. So I'm going to add adhesive to the other side and then adhere it to this stamped and decorated panel, and then just adhere that down to the card base. You can get these foam, these really large foam pieces with adhesive on the one side. You can find these in Walmart, probably in Target. I actually bought mine on Amazon because I didn't know that you could find them in Walmart yet. But and they come with like a bunch of different shades, so just wanted to point that out real quick. So going back to that stamped panel from the beginning, which I air dried, I just marked it. I held it up to my card base, marked where I wanted the score lines to be, and now I'm just folding that, and then I'm going to fit it back onto my card base. So that's why I have a little bit of extra room when I was stamping this at the top and the bottom, so that I can adhere that entire vellum panel without the adhesive showing because I have it adhered in the back. So I topped off both of the cards with some sequins, and that pretty much finishes off the cards. So here they are again. I really like the die cuts, just look so beautiful with this stamp set. Yeah, so that actually finishes off the cards today. I hope you learned something, or at least found the video amusing. And I hope you have a great time with this hop. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in this video. You can leave them on my blog, which I'll have linked. I will also have all my supplies linked on the video and on the blog. And yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great day. God bless. Bye.